I am excited today to share about one of our aligned sponsors, Dr. Tung's innovative natural oral care designed with cleaner ingredients and real results. From smart floss to tongue cleaners and wellness focused essentials, Dr. Tung's helps support healthier smiles for the whole family. Visit drtungs.com and enjoy 15% off your first purchase. Welcome, Pod Pal. Today we're talking about summer. So, Ritucharya, or the seasonal effect. What is going on in bodies in the summertime? And what are the best kind of activities, foods, and body care therapies? How do we want to exercise? What do we want to focus on in the summer season? So I'll be giving an Ayurvedic perspective on this today. And we'll be asking the question, is your summer hot? Is your summer dry? Is your summer humid? And how does your summer relate to the rest of your year? And one of the questions I get a lot is, what about people who don't live in a climate where there are distinct seasons? So keep in mind, for you, summer is the time of year where it is relatively more hot, where there's more fire element in your environment, even if it's a small difference. Some of us live in climates where it's a big difference. If it's a small difference, but your body is sort of used to that cadence throughout an annual cycle, then you will be affected all the same by the heat. And then we're going to really break down the difference between how to care for your body during a humid summer versus a dry one. And we're also going to talk about the effects of AC. So a lot coming down the pipe for you in today's episode on summer dinacharya right after this. Welcome to Everyday Ayurveda with Kate, a podcast that translates ancient wisdom for modern lives. I'm your host, Kate O'Donnell. I've been living and teaching Ayurveda, India's traditional medicine, for over 25 years, and I've authored 4 best-selling books on bringing Ayurveda practices into our lives. If you're tired of battling digestive issues, hormonal imbalances, menopause symptoms, or are seeking a deeper spiritual connection and purpose, you're in the right place. This podcast is for you, offering practical, accessible advice to help you heal through diet, optimize your daily routines, and enhance your overall well-being. Follow this space for insights on a diet that heals, strategies for better digestion, sleep, hormone health, and direction for finding a deep sense of meaning and purpose. Join me, my pod people, for this empowering journey into self-care and self-discovery. Together, we'll explore how to bring balance and vitality into your everyday life. Let's do this. So we've been making our way through the wheel of the year, the wheel of the seasons on this podcast this year. And we are arriving, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, in the time where it's relatively warmer. And that's, what we call summer. Now, first thing you want to know that's going to make a difference to how you use this information that I'm sharing today is the question of humidity. Are you having a humid summer, or is it a drier time of year for you? And those of you who are in countries or places where it's so hot that you have to use the AC, you'll want to keep in mind that AC is very drying. And so maybe it's humid outside. I mean, I know a lot of people in like coastal climates or jungle climates, they're using the AC actually to remove moisture from the air as much as to cool the air. So this is a big question because heat in conjunction with moisture is different than heat in conjunction with dryness. So when heat is in conjunction with moisture, like it's a very humid climate, you might end up with more clogging, potentially more skin stuff, potentially feeling more bloated, puffy, let's say, like water weight, water retention, and puff. And so how we're going to approach that is one thing. Whereas for those who have a dry climate, like if you're in the Southwest where it's, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, but relatively very low humidity, you're still going to be thinking about that dry quality all through the summer. And one thing that we all want to keep in mind about fire element, about heat in our environment, is that heat is ultimately drying. So if it's not in conjunction with humidity, you've got to be careful that that heat doesn't cook all the moisture out of your body. The same way that as the sun kind of reaches its zenith at midday, you'll notice like the dew, at that sort of quiet morning time, there's all this moisture in the air, and then the sun literally begins to rise and evaporate all the moisture out of the environment. And that's how Ayurveda describes the effect of the sun, is that it actually removes the moisture from the environment and therefore also from the body. And that's a different thing for those of you who are in a dry climate. It's really a force to be contended with. Whereas those of you who are in humidity, you're going to have a little more of the puffy feeling and the clogging, let's say. So we're going to approach the summer question differently depending on your humidity versus your dryness. And then, of course, there's your constitution. If you are a person who has more water element in the body, who tends more often towards that kind of puffiness, water retention, stagnation, clogging of the pores, versus if you know that you're a dry person. And you've heard me say before on this pod that the older that we get, the more dryness is likely there. So you may notice, in your 20s, 30s, you could, take a shower without having to apply any moisturizer. And then somewhere in your 40s, you started to realize that your skin was getting kind of lizard-like if you didn't apply something moist to the skin on a regular basis. So we do get drier as time goes by. So taking all of these matters into account with the information on ways that we can sort of balance the increasing heat in our environment and the effects that that might have on the body. And keeping in mind that the Ayurveda text in the Ritucharya, or the seasonal effect chapter, does talk about this evaporation of moisture off the earth by the sun in the summer season. And also, the summer season is said to be the time of year where the body is weaker. That sun, its intensity and its cooking of moisture is weakening the body. So actually winter is this time of year where our body is considered stronger. The other thing that Ayurveda considers stronger in the winter than summer is the digestive fire. Now that could seem counterintuitive to you because you're thinking there's more fire element in my environment. So the fire is higher, the pitta is higher, so my digestion is going to be higher. But in fact, the way that Ayurveda describes the fire element in the body and in the digestive tract has to do with, is that fire element concentrated into the digestive tract, or is it kind of ranging throughout the whole body, like out into the limbs? So in the winter, the cold season, the fire actually recedes into the core. And you get this little cooker, your digestive tract. The digestive fire increases, and you'll begin to, those of you who have cold weather, you'll begin to crave heavier foods, more fats, more proteins, more moisture, because when I say moisture, I do mean oils, not like you'll necessarily drink more water, but that you want like moist and dense and heavy kind of comfort foods in the cold weather. Like you're not having fruit salad for breakfast in the winter, you're having oatmeal, and then probably vice versa. So the reason for that is because your body needs that fuel. It needs those heavier qualities in order to literally feed that furnace and keep the body warm. And then your body has to kind of circulate and pump that heat right through the extremities. Where when the weather outside is already hot, all the extremities are warm. And the fire element is sort of, let's say, relaxing right out into the further channels rather than just focusing in the digestive tract. So in fact, your agni, your digestive fire, and your ability to digest these really hard to digest foods, harder to digest relatively than a lot of the summer foods that we'll talk about today, It's compromised. It's less that you're going to digest all of that food, like cookies, and mashed potatoes and meat stews and milks and cheeses and the heavy earth and water related foods that you crave in the wintertime. Those might sit heavy in your gut on a hot summer day. So what do we crave on that hot summer day? We do crave lighter foods that are refreshing and cooling and bring moisture to the body, like melons, like coconut water, coconut milk, cucumbers, right? You're thinking of all of these kind of light things that you will crave in the summertime. They digest faster. So it's actually a time of year where having more carbohydrate, less of the fat protein, relatively, right? Doesn't mean you're on a low fat, low protein diet. It just may be less in relation to how much of that stuff you feel like you need in the wintertime. So in the summer, in general, we want to gravitate towards the bitter and astringent taste. So bitter are all your greens, and these are the things that really clarify the channels, clear the body, especially the digestive tract. Astringency is also doing that. It's really toning. It's dry. It's removing excess moisture. So those of you who are in that kind of a climate where it's humid, like a coastal climate or a jungle climate, you want to eat a lot more astringent things. It's anything that kind of sucks the water out of your mouth when you put it in your mouth. The skins on a lot of fruits and vegetables are astringent. Pomegranate is a great example of a summertime tonic that's astringent. All your greens, yes, they're primarily bitter, but there'll be astringency as well. One of the things you'll get a lot of astringency out of are your summer squashes. So your zucchinis and delicatas, maybe the lighter squashes, right? But especially think zucchini. So, one of the things I'll do it a lot is cook zucchini into everything. So my kitchery is zucchini kitchery in the summertime. And it makes so much sense because summer is when the zucchinis are going nuts on the vine and you'll have tons and tons of that kind of food. If your skin has been feeling dry, dull, or like it constantly needs more product but never feels quite nourished, there is an Ayurvedic approach worth trying. Something I've been loving lately is Beauty Balm from Banyan Botanicals. Glow starts with how you nourish your skin, and this balm is all about deep, lasting moisture and care. It's made with nourishing ghee, shatavari, and a subtle rose geranium scent, creating this rich, soothing blend that helps soften skin, support hydration, and promote that healthy, natural glow. What I love most is how versatile it is. One balm, every dry spot, face, hands, lips, cuticles, elbows, knees. Beauty Balm does it all. A little goes a long way and it leaves your skin feeling soft, supple, and genuinely cared for. Like everything from Banyan Botanicals, it's made with high quality ingredients and rooted in the wisdom of Ayurveda. So if you're looking for one simple product to support glowing, hydrated skin wherever you need it, try Banyan Botanicals Beauty Balm. You can find it at banyanbotanicals.com/Kate, and I'll link it in the show notes. We spend so much time thinking about wellness, what we eat, how we sleep, how we manage stress, but oral health is an important part of this bigger picture. That's why I'm excited to share today's sponsor, Dr. Tongues. Dr. Tongues has been creating innovative natural oral care products for over 25 years, combining modern dental science with holistic wellness principles to support a healthier mouth and overall well-being. Their products are thoughtfully designed to work with your body, not against it. I love their incredibly popular Smart Floss, which is clinically shown to remove up to 55% more plaque than traditional flosses. I also love that Dr. Tongues focuses on sustainability, eco-conscious packaging, and avoiding unnecessary chemicals like PFAs, PTFE, dyes, and harsh additives whenever possible. If you're looking to upgrade your family's oral care routine with products that feel healthier and truly effective, visit drtongues.com. New customers get 15% off their purchase. We're going to focus today on the big picture, but keep in mind my next episode will be about preparation of summer foods. So some of those lazy cooking things that I really lean into in the summer, how I use a lot of these foods. But in general, bitter and astringent, lighter, a little easier to digest foods. Think things like legumes. It's a great time of year for all your beans. Beans, like I make hummus a lot. Rice. So if you have a strong digestive fire, you'll be eating the brown rice, that's got a lot of the fiber on it. If you're feeling like that's sitting in your stomach and giving you maybe a little acid indigestion, then maybe you need to go for the basmati rice that's had the hull removed, what you would call white basmati. Quinoa. I eat a lot of quinoa in the summer. It's fluffy, it's light, it's easy to digest. Coconut. So I do coconut, like shredded coconut in things. I sprinkle it on things. I'd use it in sweet as well as savory dishes. I do a lot of coconut milk. Maybe I make like a drink out of it, but I do a lot of soups with coconut milk in them. And juicy sweet fruits. So the kind of the sweet taste is, according to Ayurveda, something that reduces heat in the body. And that's why you might crave like a Gatorade, this kind of juicy, sweet tasting drink. And the great news is we can get that same vibe from fruits, your honeydew melon, your watermelon, peaches. The plums, when they're around, they can be more sour than sweet. I feel like I have to let them sit, and get to the sweet place. But certainly dates, figs when they're available, they tend to come around a little bit later. But you've got all your stone fruits, right? Stone fruits are going to be great, and all your melons, and they're gangbusters in the summertime. So melon for sure, and also your fresh and cooling succulent vegetables. So cucumbers and zucchinis are certainly on top of my list. Fennel. A fennel bulb is a fantastic food. So whether you are in a climate that is dry or a climate that is moist, any of the above are going to be really helpful for you. But this astringency, remember, is what sucks that extra moisture out of the body. And so you'll get that from a lot of your berries, a lot of your red and blue, purple fruits. So grapes are actually considered king among fruits in the Ayurveda texts. And it's the black grape, not the green grape. That's just kind of sugary, but the black grape. So I juice it. I put it in the blender with a little cardamom, do a black grape juice. You can also enjoy cilantro. You'll find cilantro as a garnish on a lot of Ayurvedic recipes, and that's because it really balances heat and acidity in the digestion. Cardamom also does that, and our good old friend mint. So having a mint tea, or making mint water, or having mint chutney, putting mint in things, and mint is one of those really easy to come by herbs in the summertime. All of those foods are going to do you favors in the warm time of year. And when you make drinks out of these things, so like you add water to the grapes and blend them with a little cardamom, or you could do like a limeade that has a bit of mint in it. Or a sweet tea with mint. Lavender is another one, right? So having like a lavender syrup that you add to your drinks. When you take these hydrating and cooling things, they really go right for your blood and really reduce that heat in your blood, because the red blood, according to Ayurveda, is the tissue layer where heat will gravitate towards. And the easiest way for your body to get rid of heat is through the skin and the digestion, namely the poop, right? So your body wants you want to keep these channels of elimination, the skin and the poop, really moving and clear. So I've seen a lot of people have problems in the summertime when there's a bit of constipation or incomplete stool happening. So yes, triphala, we've talked about that on this podcast before, having a little bit of triphala powder soaked in water, and you drink that at night, a half a teaspoon or so, that can definitely keep things moving. If you're eating plenty of fiber and all of these cooling and sweet and succulent fruits and grains and legumes that I'm talking about, you probably poop fine, right? Sometimes there might be a dry factor that comes in, especially when you've gotten too much sun. But keeping it moving, right? And that is key, because when that digestive tract gets backed up, that's when your body starts to really struggle to get rid of that heat. Now, coming out of the skin is another really important factor. And the skin is such a big part of the overall story of the body and especially the detox pathways because your skin is like covered with all these pores. It's really a great way that your body can get rid of things. And as you know, sweat is how the body cools itself. So wearing antiperspirants is totally off the menu here. And something to note about the summertime is that onion and garlic are the ones that make your sweat really stink. So, if you're eating a lot of onion and garlic in the summer, those are foods that are notoriously heating. They will heat up your body from the inside out and make you feel less refreshed, less cool, and will make your armpits stinkier. So one thing to think about is learning to cook with turmeric, coriander, cilantro, parsley, all your fresh herbs from the garden. Turmeric is also just fantastic for keeping things moving in general in the bloodstream and in the body. But cooking with these non-spicy spices is especially important in the summer. This is the time of year to really take to heart, like learning how to cook with less garlic and onion. And then you won't be as stinky either. So this desire to use an antiperspirant, something that blocks the sweat, you won't have to worry about that in the same way, for sure. So we're talking about our bitter and astringent foods. We're talking about keeping the poop moving, and we're talking also about skin, right? A couple things aside from onion and garlic to keep in mind are really aggravating for this hot weather are going to be your fried foods, especially those of you who are in a moist climate. So those of you who have the summer humidity, watch out for excessive amounts of fats. Of course, you want your healthy fats and your easy to digest fats, coconut oil, ghee, avocados, nuts and seeds. But once we start moving towards the fried food in the summer, that is going to give you skin stuff. You're going to have that kind of clogging, and also that puffy feeling is going to happen from oil, because oil is heavy and wet. And that's the same thing that your air is doing this time of year. It's being heavy and wet. So less of the fried stuff. I mean, of course it happens. It's the kind of the irony of it is that a lot of these like beach kind of seafood shacks, at least in the part of the world where I live, are like deep frying everything. So onion rings and French fries and your seafood battered, fish and chips kind of vibe. So yes, maybe you'll have it sometimes, right? But those are the things, if you're having often, are going to compound your feeling uncomfortable in a hot and humid climate. Again, go back to those blue and red fruits and juices. Also, aloe. So aloe is our friend that can be used internally as well as topically. So we talked already about mint, lavender, but aloe plant is amazing because it's a demulcent. So it has this kind of slimy, moist atmosphere to it. So those of you, especially who are in a dry climate, will find aloe to be very refreshing. But I think regardless of your humidity levels, you will find aloe refreshing and helpful. So I do tend to mix a couple ounces of aloe into water or coconut water or pomegranate juice at some point every day in hot weather. Also, for those of you, again, in the humidity or who are having a kind of a clogging experience with the skin, let's talk about that oil for a minute, because we talk about oil massage so much on this show, and how important it is. And a lot of you, I think, have worked really hard to integrate that routine. But there are times and weathers where you may not gravitate towards an oil massage. When it's really humid out, it might feel like the last thing that you want to do. And especially those of you who are getting kind of like pimples in this humid weather, try aloe gel. So you try take a cool shower and then apply aloe gel to the whole body. And it's also a great cosmetic for use on the face for those of you who find you're kind of getting pimples and reacting to a really humid season. So oil may not be your thing when it's really humid. If you do want to use an oil, though, keep in mind that coconut is an oil that actually cools the body. It's also lighter, less viscous than our friends like sesame and almond, avocado, and some of the heavier oils that you might use in cooler weather. So we want to move towards something lighter so that skin can really breathe. Because some of you are going to be still very dry in the summer. But if you're also hot, try going for a coconut oil massage instead of a sesame. And then once your weather starts cooling down and your skin starts getting drier in the fall, you can go right back to that heavier oil that maybe you've gotten used to. A side note for those who are really dry, you might find the coconut oil isn't enough and that you need to use something thicker, regardless of it being hot out. But sesame oil, the one that we tend to use most often for oil massage, it is a little bit warming. So if you're covering your whole body with that and it's hot and you're feeling hot and uncomfortable, that may be why. So you might want to move towards a lighter oil or something neutral like almond, jojoba, coconut, sunflower, or a blend of some of those oils. So in the same way that you're your own guide with choosing the oil, right? Like how hot do you feel? Do you feel hot and greasy? Then you want to go lighter and you want to go cooler with the oil. Or do you still feel dry and you don't really feel overheated? Then maybe you want to stick with a heavier oil. The same is true with appetite. Paying attention to your appetite is a big one. I've learned a lot about my own body in the past couple of summers, actually, because I would always gravitate towards these lighter, cooling, succulent, refreshing foods. And I don't know, 3, maybe 4 years ago, I started paddle boarding and being out on the ocean a lot. And I would say, potentially a pretty vigorous exercise. And I also ride my bike. I barely ever use my car in warm weather. So I am like out moving a lot more in the summertime than I am in the winter. And so I started having intense cravings. Like I was feeling so hungry in the summertime that it was crazy. It was like no matter what I ate, it wasn't doing the trick. And that can happen when the fire gets high in your body. If it really gets out of balance, you can start to feel insatiably hungry. And then you'll need to move towards like more food, heavier foods, and not just be focusing on these protocols for lighter, easier to digest foods. So for me, because of my activity levels really rise in the summertime, and the ocean where I live is very cold. So there's also a lot of like cold dunking going on, right? So it's interesting because it's not what I expected. It's not like textbook Ayurveda experience to be craving like really heavy foods. I'd want like a grilled cheese sandwich, like something like heavy, oily, hot, dense. And this just got worse, I would say, for a couple of years. And I finally started to figure it out. I'm like, oh my God, it's the paddleboarding. On days where I'm out on the ocean like that, I am so hungry. And so for some of you, this may also be true, that it depends where you live. Because some of you, I think, are in environments where even your ocean is warm, right? And so you may be kind of hunkering down in the dark in the AC and being less active in the summer. In that case, all these lighter foods will work for you. But for me, that's the time of year where I'm out and about. And I actually found that I need to take care to actually eat a lot more proteins in the summertime. And so I'm eating eggs like a lot, and almond flour tortillas. I'm making kind of like power balls with whey protein and seeds and almond butter, tahini. I eat a lot of tahini in the summertime. A lot of these you might be like, Kate, those are winter foods, right? But I actually need them in the summer. So it's something that I didn't expect but learned about myself. So I mentioned that in case that's also true for you, that you're super active in the summertime. And then you might find that you need some of these grounding foods for sure. Other routines to keep in mind, according to classical Ayurveda, is to avoid that midday sun, to wear a big hat. So wearing a big sun hat and keeping that sun off, especially the head. So the head is an organ where there's just a lot of activity going on. There's a lot of neural activity. So it's like it can get to be a hot place up there. So a general Ayurvedic protocol or principle is to keep the head cool, keep it away from midday sun. The favored exercise in summer season, Ayurvedically speaking, is swimming. Because swimming is like, it's actually cooling you while you're exercising. So it's something that you can do and keep your cool, as opposed to, going for jogs in the midday sun, let's say. And you can imagine that sunbathing is not so indicated, especially during the midday sun. A great routine in the summer is because the sun's up earlier, it's brighter, and you can get up and do your movement, do your exercise routine before it gets really hot. That would be the ideal way to do it and get that kind of done behind you. And you might notice a similar change in your food flow. This Ayurvedic general recommendation of eating at midday, if that is a hot time of the hottest time of day for you, you might find that you eat a bigger meal. So you do your exercise earlier and then you have a really big breakfast and like you get that nourishment in the body before it gets really hot. And then maybe you're hydrating and you're enjoying these juicy fruits and melons and things throughout the afternoon. And then in the evening time, as it cools down, you move towards another big meal. And so that's not something we would do all year round, but in the really hot weather, you might find that that works better for you. And so getting a lot of your nourishment happening in the morning, like before noon, before it starts to get hot. So I do notice that in the summer, I end up eating like my biggest meal at like 10. And what I notice, and this is more, I notice this when I'm in India, because where I live, it doesn't ever really get that hot. But when I'm in India, I was trying to eat the biggest meal is served at midday where I was staying, and I kept getting headaches after eating. The digestive activity was just too much. So I had to start really doubling down on breakfast and going really light at lunch and then eating the dinner at, like 6 o'clock, say. Then the headaches stopped. And it took me a week of keep trying to eat that main meal, and thinking I need the nourishment and getting headaches over and over again, right? So if that's something you're noticing, that you don't have an appetite in that heat at the middle of the day, then go for these sort of liquid nourishment in the afternoon and go bigger in the morning and in the evening once it's cooled down a bit, and you'll find that you feel better, right? Interestingly, because a lot of us are more active in the summer, Ayurveda texts actually talk about resting more, staying in the shade and keeping it cool rather than doing a lot more physical activity in the summertime, except for swimming, right? We love the swimming. So it's an interesting one because the winter is the time where your body needs more exercise and it's stronger. So it like reacts better to exercise, and the exercise doesn't like diminish your energy, but builds your energy more in the winter than in the summer. So it's an interesting one because I do notice a lot of people kind of hibernate in the cold season and don't do much. And then in the summer, everyone's like out and about all the time. I have had to really find ways to be more active in the winter. In the summer, it's as you've heard me say already, no problem for me to stay active. But the interesting shift that hit me about this summer outdoor activity was that I had to eat more. I have to eat more and like really work on that in the summer because I get so hungry from all this outdoor activity. So most important point is to keep these channels through which the body gets rid of heat, keep those clear this time of year. So that's the skin, and that is the digestion, especially the elimination. All right. So get your fiber, stay lubricated, try the aloe juice internally, a couple ounces a day. That might really help you eliminate. It might help cool down your digestion, cool down everything. And those of you who are gravitating away from oil, because oil can be a blocker in a really humid summer, that makes sense. Instead, try using a pure aloe gel on your skin and you'll love that. And those of you who are getting pimples on the skin this time of year, putting oil on top of humidity and pimple is not often the best thing. And that's where the aloe can be really helpful. And in general, perhaps moving from a heating and heavy oil to something cool like coconut in the summer will feel like a wonderful change of pace for you. Stay tuned for my next episode where we'll dive a little bit deeper into some summer recipes. And until then, enjoy whatever season you're in. And I'll see you next time on Everyday Ayurveda with Kate.